Hello, welcome again to Sports Unlocked. If you hit subscribe, you land in your feeds automatically to listen to Martyn Ziegler from the Times, Tariq Panja from the New York Times, and myself, Rob Harris from Sky News. Coming up, news from the FIFA Council meeting and our encounter this week with FIFA Vice President Victor Montogliano. But starting in the world of esports, and an absolutely huge deal. Also, the biggest leverage takeover in history. EA Sports sold for $55 billion. But to who?
Incredible deal. Leverage takeovers that our regular listeners might be aware of. Manchester United and the Glazers. But this is a whole world of... It's 55 billion, as you say, Rob. 55 billion with 20 billion of debt funded by JP Morgan. But to who is an interesting question. Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, regulars on this pod. Silver Lake, private equity firm, also owns a piece of Manchester City, which is owned by the United Arab Emirates. That's Man City, not Silver Lake. And Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law. Quite the group. And football fans would know EA from the game EA FC, formerly known as
FIFA.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever taken you guys on at FIFA, but I would be pretty sure I'd beat you easily.
Ziggs. Let's get rid.
Sports FC.
Let's get rid. That's just, in fact, guys, there could be a special.
That'll be on Twitch.
It'll be on Twitch.
So one of those intriguing names, Jared Kushner. How's he ended up part of this deal?
Right. Very good question. And he's supposed to be central to this. He is supposed to be, or was said to be, on WhatsApp terms with MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, who apparently loves nothing more than gaming, video games. You know, he's still in his 50s, I think. This is one of his passions. Saudi Arabia has become the home of esports as well. And
esports World Cup held there. We had Cristiano Ronaldo there last year, Gianni Infantino as well. They've got the Olympics as well whenever it launches.
Yeah, and Saudi Arabia and as you said, the relationship with the International Olympic Committees solidified around esports. They've also got a company of their own called Savvy Games, in which billions has been pumped into. But the relationship with Kushner and MBS is key to this. The other element is Kushner's company is said to get 5% of this deal. It's called Affinity Partners. It's a fund that was set up after the first Trump administration, in which Kushner was a big part of the outreach to the Middle East. Of course, we talked about the Abraham Accords and things like this. The interesting thing here, this fund he set up, Affinity Partners, the biggest investment has come from Saudi Arabia itself. So they're already in that business. Silver Lake as well, the other partner. It's had a lot of partnerships and had a lot of money from the United Arab Emirates as well. So this feels like very much a Gulf takeover of EA. $55 billion, 25% premium of the share price. So those guys who are holding shares in EA, including the CEO there, are gonna make some serious money out of this. But for EA, there's, looking online and seeing what the comments are, a 20 billion debt burden, that's going to be something that they're going to have to service. And the price of this, people are saying there is no way Saudi Arabia and these investors are going to make money out of this. So there are other forces at play here. And that's interesting because this EA platform and getting into video games is another major cultural export or cultural landscape, isn't it, for Saudi Arabia to have a big say in the world. We've got football, we've got video games. It's a big deal, this, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. No, I mean, interestingly, Jared Kushner, some people credit him with first introducing Gianni Infantino to Mohammed bin Salman back when the US was bidding to hold the 2026 World Cup, and Jared Kushner was involved. But yeah, the talk is that he sort of brokered that relationship, which has proved very important for FIFA. Another thing, FIFA controversially lost the sort of title of the game, the very popular video game, which now EA Sports FC. Do you think Johnny Infantino has been talked many times how they're going to have a rival game that's going to be the biggest and the best in the world, but not heard anything about it at all since then? Do you think there's a chance the name could return?
Yes, I do.
It's certainly still used by everyone to describe
Exactly.
EFC.
That's right.
I think it can be, and the more immediate thing is the World Cup 2026. EA, even when they had this divorce from FIFA, don't forget, just the backstory is EA was paying $50 million a year, the highest annual revenue FIFA was getting from anything.
Just to use the name.
Just use those 4 letters effectively, for their branding exercise. And FIFA asked for a very significant increase on that. And also, I guess, EA to lose some of the exclusive privileges it had. So there could have been other video games, maybe on the phone or in app stores made by other people, as well as, this NFT thing. There was an NFT craze around that time. That seems to have disappeared. But EA, even despite the divorce, they had been in talks with FIFA about why can't we at least do a deal for the World Cup 2026. Now, I think with this happening, that almost seems inevitable that a World Cup of FIFA, or FIFA's World Cup, will be in that video game.
They can really build that around. EA unites the world, or reunites football again.
Indeed. Fascinating fact, one of the co-founders of EA Sports was a Dave Evans, who was also one of the entrepreneur who led the design of Apple's first mouse. His son is now the managing director of Leeds United, Robbie Evans.
All roads lead to Yorkshire.
Well, all roads lead to Welland Road. So all this deal that they've got in place, they're going to have to try to probably make some cuts, aren't they, to pay for this whole takeover? And that's where AI comes in, because a bit of talk around this deal is how much of that design work on games will now be done far more rapidly by AI rather than all these game designers.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk of that. In fact, this entire pod is just 3 AI versions of the 3 of us. No, this has been the big issue in the gaming industry in general. That the workforce will be cut down and replaced by AI. Not the only industry, and you're right, because $20 billion is an enormous debt load for that company to have to pay, and it's going to be not cheap. It's not going to be cheap debt either. This deal, in terms of it, actually, they announced it, but by the time keys are handed over and the new people move in at EA, I think they're talking something like 18 months. So I guess all of that will have to be made clear. But you do worry for the staff there at EA, where there's going to be streamlining that's going to take place there.
And whether or not it could lead to more personalisation of the game as well. You can ask it to create completely different environments or hybrid football and other sports environments just at a sort of stroke of a keyboard, and it creates your version of an EA game, basically to keep you more in the EA world. Since they're paid so much, they're going to need people to stay on EA even longer, and also to hand them over cash, because a lot of the money made by EA at the moment is from the extra packs that you get with the football game. So they need to find ways of you wanting to hand money over. So can you hand money over and you can use their generative AI function to personalize yourself more into the game?
Yes, this is the ultimate team function, which is a real cash cow in the FIFA game, something they've been criticized about as well in the past. I think they had to appear in front of a parliamentary inquiry in the UK over these packs, because just to say it's not gambling. To the way these packs work, you get them and you don't know which players you're gonna have, and people keep asking their parents or whoever to keep buying them for them to put these players in this team. The other big hope for the EA or the FIFA platform is that it becomes something else entirely as well, that the stickability, it's not just a video gaming platform. They were talking about like an everything app where you're watching games, you're playing games, you're getting highlights.
Concerts are in it.
All of these things, but they've been talking about that for years, but none of that actually has materialized. So again, this is more of a we wish this could happen, but whether it could happen and whether it can be monetized and whether it can compete against other distractions for attention. That remains to be seen.
And to consider how ubiquitous they are, we've focused on the football game, but they've got the NFL game, Madden, which is hugely popular, the official NFL game, the official Formula One game, a college football one, the Sims as well. So they've really got mass, widespread appeal.
They have Sims is an interesting one as well, because that had a very big LGBTQ element built into the latest iteration of the Sims game. Now, with this issue, we've talked about this issue when it comes to World Cups and hosting and things like this. Now we're talking about the virtual world. Will the owners of this, again, does it mirror the interests and the kind of lifestyle of the people who play the game? That again, a potentially new flashpoint.
You seem very energized by this. I'm sure in earlier pods you're a bit reluctant to ever talk about esports. We suggested it.
Absolutely. I'm saying, guys, just to confirm, I'm still not interested in attending any of these events or esports. But as a business transaction, it is absolutely fascinating. $50 billion, $55 billion US dollars, 20 billion of debt. And again, the voracious appetite of the Saudis to sort of acquire anything that isn't nailed down is, again, here clear to see, isn't it?
Tariq, I was disappointed. I thought you were going to announce you were the New York Times' new esports correspondent.
No. My only dabble with esports, I promise you this, Ziggs, because there was fighting talk from you about 5 minutes ago, will be streamed on Twitch, as Rob has promised. You have my word. The Panja promise.
Then when we get really popular, then we can have a boxing match afterwards.
Multidisciplined. Well, that's the EA deal. Interesting to see how that one does develop. How do they make the money back? What changes are there? What new games are there? How much does it engage the youth in Saudi Arabia, which seems to be one of the hearts of this investment? And when will the FIFA game return? Or will it? Well, it was the FIFA Council meeting this week. The meeting held in Zurich with quite a lot of the members going, rather than being around the world.
Yeah, a bit of a change. A hybrid meeting, so I think quite a few people did turn up. Our colleague and often pod guest, Graham Dunbar, went along to the Hyatt in Zurich to doorstep, speak to the members who did get there. And he said there were quite a few. So, but yeah, a lot turned up and nothing happened.
Very lonely, though, for poor old Graham. He's surrounded by the FIFA Council, which is lovely, but not like the old days where there'd be a few people, a few journalists there as well. But you don't expect much to happen these days, let alone a meeting. I suppose you didn't expect a meeting to happen sometimes. Most of these were done in Zoom. So as Rob said, it's a rarity for this thing to take place in person. And again, in the olden days, there would be press conferences after each of these FIFA Council or the Exco meetings. And that obviously doesn't happen anymore. So poor old Graham holding the candle, holding the fort on his own there. Great job. So
what question would you have asked?
Well, I still want to know how Saudi Arabia ended up getting the World Cup. I haven't been able to ask that for 2 years. So that's what I would have asked.
That's a $55 billion question.
What would your question be? Although we both had the chance to ask one of the vice presidents of FIFA, CONCACAF President Victor Montagliani this week, who did stop over at the Leaders Conference at Twickenham in London.
Yeah, Victor Montagliani been on this pod as well before.
Twice.
Twice, indeed, yes. No, I would also ask, I think somebody needs to sit down with Johnny Infantino asking the Saudi Arabian questions in detail with follow-ups. But whether that happens before 2034, I'm not betting any money on that. But yeah, Victor Montagliani spoke at the Leaders Conference. Actually, he kind of covered all the issues, really, all the burning issues. I was asked about everything, about the heat of the World Cup, what's happening with Israel, moves for them to be suspended, and also more generally the kickoff times at the World Cup. Yeah, Victor Montagliani, who's been on the pod as well. Twice, indeed. And yeah, he appeared at the Leaders Conference in Twickenham in London and covered all the burning issues, really, answered questions on Israel and moves by some people for them to be suspended by UEFA, things around the 2026 World Cup, kickoff times, the heat, and also this proposal by the South American football leader Alejandro Dominguez for there to be 64 teams at 2030 instead of 48.
And he's very much against that.
He is very much against that. Yeah, Rob, the fact he sort of, answered all these questions without creating any serious controversies, really, it shows it can be done.
Yeah, and I did an interview with him as well afterwards, and we got stuck into quite a few issues, quite a few follow-ups on whether Mideast policy and things like that. And obviously a lot of the headlines in the end ended up being about World Cup kickoff times being late. So maybe slightly surprising, because we haven't just discovered that there's a time difference between Europe and North America, and we haven't just discovered there'll be heat, and we haven't just discovered as well that a lot of the stadiums will be indoors as well. So
yeah, well, go on.
You can call them.
Yeah. So what's your sense? Well, they only realised that people were melting when they were playing during the Club World Cup. Is that what happened when they had the test run, or it seems that's what happened? But it was kind of evident, isn't it? If you ask people to play 120 minutes or 90 minutes, over 100 degrees or whatever, that's not going to be good for a football match.
No, it's not. I think that things have actually been focused since the Club World Cup, and I think there have been some fairly recent discussions between broadcasters and getting some of the European broadcasters a bit alarmed by not having prime time coverage for their country's teams. But you also have national teams actually being very worried that they're going to be forced to play in the sort of heat of, if you're playing in Miami, there's no cover for the stadium. It's going to be red hot, and is that going to affect your chances? And I think there has been quite a lot of concern made to FIFA from the national teams as well. So I think that's been an issue too.
Do you think what Seb Coe, the World Athletics president, said the other day about events moving, like the Olympics, etc., maybe the World Cup is good? We saw it in Qatar. This with global warming, climate change, all the rest of it, June and July are really, really, really hot everywhere, almost in the Northern Hemisphere, right? It's not limited to
particularly in Spain and Portugal, potentially
Morocco.
2030.
It's going to be hot. It's going to be roasting. There was this debate over the calendar a couple of years ago, but that got subsumed by the nonsensical debate about biennial World Cup, and it kind of got lost about the international football calendar. I do think, given the weather patterns, we might have to look at this, because even playing in the evening, there's still going to be games that are going to be really hot.
Maybe not a conversation to be having in the United States about climate change.
Yeah.
There is no climate change. What are you talking about?
Yeah. In terms of Victor Montagliani, you guys spoke to him. Is he quite confident, just in general terms? Is everything going according to plan for the World Cup itself? You've got a lot of White House interest there. You got, is it not one but two FIFA trophies maybe in the Oval? What did he say?
Well, I thought actually perhaps the most interesting thing that when he was asked about Donald Trump's threat to move some matches from the World Cup from the sort of left wing cities, I think he quoted Seattle as one of them, didn't he, Donald Trump? He said that if we're going to move them if we don't think it's safe, but we're going to make sure it's safe. And asked Victor Montagliani about this, and he was sort of fairly blunt. He said, "Look, FIFA makes the decisions. We make the decisions, not national governments." And I think that was as far as you get, perhaps, in these situations, to being blunt.
Obviously, it was Qatar that took the decision over alcohol sales.
Yeah, on the 2 days before the tournament started as well. But as you say, it's quite blunt. Of course, Victor Montagliani's Canadian.
Hasn't been seen at the White House in any of these trips by FIFA.
He's not been there. Guys, the World Cup is such a complex event to organise. It takes years. That's what, it takes a long time to... the idea that you're just going to move venues quickly, you can maybe dropped the beer or whatever, and that was very controversial, as you said, Rob. But changing venues so late in the day when you've done the stadiums, and now we've just got we're going to talk about this in a second. The ticket sales have started. Guys, that's not happening, is it?
Well, it was said by Donald Trump after our last recording of the pod, so we seem to have moved on very quickly, so I've not heard it even discussed since in the last few days. We've had the Ryder Cup since then, but he suddenly dropped it in a late night session in the Oval Office, having been at the United Nations all week. And he was using it more, Trump, as part of his domestic political agenda in terms of about the deployment of the National Guard and portraying some of these Democrat cities as being badly run and crime infested.
Exactly. Part of the bluster, the daily bluster, probably. But there is already some issues though with I guess White House Trump policies. There was a story on BBC Persian that the Iranian FA president was denied a visa for the World Cup draw. Now, Iran was the first Asian team to qualify for the 2026 World Cup. Obviously, no relationship between the United States and Iran, but it is the World Cup, and these are members of the delegation. FIFA have these very strict rules, hosting rules, supposed to be there. So, it's still, what are we now? We are in October, still a couple of months to go. So maybe that will be ironed out. And another big story, or a story that isn't as big as it should be, I think. I saw this on The Athletic by Henry Bushnell. These the tickets are on sale now. So the first initial ticket price for the 2026 World Cup, he wrote, blew away all projections and point of comparison except for one, the Super Bowl. He said World Cup ticket prices were revealed this week from this lottery FIFA had. Basically, all of them are like hundreds of dollars, into the thousands. So it says here, back in 2018, FIFA had estimated group stage tickets could range from $21 to $323. Or not FIFA, it was North American soccer officials, so the bidding nations, Mexico, Canada, and the US. And tickets for the final would range from $128 to $1,550. Instead, the cheapest ticket to the final is $2,030, with most upper deck tickets for the game sold for $2,790 or $4,210. Lower level and most second level tickets for the final are $6,730. Guys, this is mental. FIFA have said when they've been pushed on these ticket prices, all of the money is reinvested in football. So that's why but guys, they were staying at the Hyatt this week for the FIFA Council meeting. There is a lot of executive travel. There is a lot of money wasted in FIFA that isn't spent on this stuff. If they really, really, really wanted to cut costs, so it all goes into football development, maybe they could look a bit closer to home.
Strong words indeed. I wasn't quite clear on these ticket prices. Is that the standard ticket prices?
Yes.
Is this a special?
Do you get anything with it?
So
yeah, you get a flat. That's how much you're paying. Yeah, I mean, no. So the cheapest tickets advertised were $60, and reading like Henry's piece, it said there were so few $60 tickets available in these stadiums, like way up in the corner somewhere. But the rest are in the hundreds of dollars, then in the thousands of dollars.
But dynamic pricing means that some of them could come down. There are 104 matches. They're not all going to sell out, are they?
They are. But let me ask you, Rob, what they've done is created this buzz to get the lottery, right? You need to go into the lottery to get these tickets. And the lottery was massively oversubscribed because it's the World Cup. It's nothing to do with FIFA. This is the other thing. People love this tournament. And it's not anything... FIFA's name is on this thing, but this is the world's most popular sport. The nations are playing each other. It's always going to be popular. So my question to you is, these people who have now bought these tickets, if the dynamic pricing was to work in the way you might say it will they get their refunds?
We do have some sort of response because FIFA media director Brian Swanson did write to The Guardian to take issue with one of their columns about FIFA being all for profit all costs. And he said, the FIFA resale platform will provide fans looking to sell or buy tickets on a secondary market with a safe and secure method to do so as permitted by US legislation. And he talked about, while at the same time ensuring as much value as possible is retained for the redistribution into the game and around the world. And it was about saying there's fair access to the game for existing or prospective fans, and there's specific fan category allocations at fixed prices.
But the reality is that, this Henry's done his reporting here. Those cheap tickets, there are very, very few of them. And in terms of, and I've said what I said about allocating into football, the amount of waste and an executive largesse that FIFA and like the fat cat, especially the politicians, enjoy. If some of that went back into football, then these ticket prices wouldn't need to be this high. And by the way, and I've said this,
one stay in a hotel in Zurich wouldn't bring down all ticket prices, though, would it?
Is it one stay in the hotel? Is that the only thing I'm talking about, Rob? You've seen how
the
they
multiple
live. You've been around as long as
Congress.
I have. Do you think it's one? Do you think it's 1 week at the Hyatt that we're talking
It's
about?
the committee meetings as well, isn't it?
There's everything. There's everything. When the World Cup comes, the black cars, the minivans, all of it. It is an extremely luxurious lifestyle. For them then to say, we're going to charge fans through the nose so we can develop football, it's ridiculous if you compare the two things.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. Also, just wanted to check, if somebody buys a $60 ticket or you need a $500 ticket, there's nothing to stop them selling it on one of these secondary market sites. Now, you couldn't do it in the UK, for example, but with a Premier League match. But I think for the World Cup, you can cash in and actually you can make a profit on what you've spent on that. So you can get a cheap ticket or a cheap-ish ticket, and then you can sell it for a lot of money. And that definitely isn't going to go into the development of football, because that's going to yourself.
Does it not?
Well, that was the point in the letter to the Guardian from FIFA saying, well, these secondary sites permitted in US law, so they've got to allow it.
Yeah.
So let's just start at $6,000 and then blame the Americans for this.
Well, if we start at $6,000, that means that does go to the football development thing instead of into somebody's pocket. Maybe that's the reasoning.
So the issue with the dynamic pricing for me is, as we saw, there's certain countries, particularly in South America, where fans travel en masse, fans who really probably can't afford what they're doing. Think about Argentina, think about Peru, in Russia, Colombia, etc. People try so hard to support their team from these countries. And because of dynamic pricing, these are the ones that are going to be penalised, presumably, because they're trying so hard to support their team. Meanwhile, those who don't travel, those tickets will be reduced. It feels like anyone with a loyal fan base is going to be hit hard in the pocket as a result of this pricing strategy. And that feels quite unfair. And for FIFA, to say this is related to football development costs, FIFA is not short of money. If anything, FIFA has too much money. Gianni Infantino, I noticed in this latest council, they've announced who's going to be in all these standing committees. Remember we talked about this before, the return of all of those committees that were criticised after Sepp Blatter left. The idea that you gift members loyalty, you give them this trip to Zurich, you put them on a committee and they'll be very supportive of you. They didn't really achieve much. They're back now. How much do they cost?
Well, you'd be pleased to know that they'll all be coming to London in January, the FIFA Council.
And they're staying at the Travelodge.
You can give them some advice. It's the FIFA Women's Champions Cup that's launching. It's the forerunner to the Club World Cup, and the semi-finals, third place match and final will all be staged in London from January the 28th till February the 1st. It's featuring the continental champions, so Arsenal having won the Women's Champions League last season, Auckland City from Oceania, Gotham from the US, and Wuhan having won the Asian competition. Still a couple of slots available from South America and Africa. But yeah, new competition, and that's something that FIFA are going to have to fund.
Do you know what I saw? Speaking of FIFA and new competitions, I was on the number 38 bus.
The Arab Cup.
Yeah. And I looked out the window.
In London.
I looked out the window and I saw a red London bus emblazoned with an advert promoting the FIFA Arab Cup in Qatar, I think. Buy your tickets now. And I was just thinking, who the hell is going to do that? Who in London? Who are they marketing this to?
It's a very international city, isn't it, London?
It is. It is. And it is.
And I've seen the adverts on the side of buses.
That's
well.
where I saw it.
Who's paying for those adverts?
Well, it made me think they must have a lot of budget here.
Is that
Maybe
FIFA
from
or
selling
Qatar?
these $6,000 World Cup ticket seats, you got a bigger marketing budget for this stuff.
It's the Supreme Committee that still exists.
Is that right? No, it was a FIFA. It's a FIFA tournament.
It's a FIFA tournament, but maybe it's Qatar who's. But it's bizarre why they're advertising in London.
So that FIFA Women's Cup was also agreed in the council meeting. In the press release from it, there was a huge dig at an entity that wasn't exactly named, but it's pretty obvious who it was.
Or entities, yeah. So certainly, basically, FIFPRO, the International Players Union, has launched legal action against FIFA and the European courts, and for abuse of power. And they have actually been joined by the European leagues as well. But yeah, a very sort of spiky press release without naming anybody, but saying basically these legal actions are a threat to world football.
So this is related to the European leagues and FIFPRO taking legal action against FIFA over
the calendar, the Club World Cup, the lack of recovery time for players, needing more guaranteed rest. Is it 21 days they're asking for guaranteed rest every year?
I think all of it was related to them not having a say. They are, we are relevant figures in the game. We should be part of the decision-making process, and they weren't. So they are taking them to court. Did they not name them because they were scared of a lawsuit or something? Why didn't they name them, guys? Do you know?
Well, the statement talked about the FIFA Council being updated on the public attacks, legal challenges, and continued lack of transparency, governance, and stability of certain organisations. It said the motivations of these organisations are outside of the established pyramid model that supports club and national team football at global, continental, and national level. So then talked about them posing a threat to the pyramid and saying that from Infantino himself, saying there needs to be some meaningful dialogue. So is the reason they're saying this is because it's outside of the structures, because FIFA aren't represented on the FIFA Council? So if you've got an issue, you should go to a council member to bring it up. Is that what they're saying?
Maybe, but again, you have to go back to what this is. Football is a multi-billion-dollar business now. FIFA is one of the organisations that benefits from it the most. FIFA is, as we've said, an event organizer like UEFA, and is also making these decisions without these other people. So it competes with these bodies for money and for interest, while having a complete say in how the game is run. So I think what they're saying is this model is very outdated. It's very lopsided in the favour of these governing bodies, and things need to change. Because you look at the makeup of the FIFA Council, and you think, right, these are the people that decide all of these key decisions on how football operates, both from a regulatory point of view, but also in many ways from a financial point of view as well, right? And maybe things should be different. It's definitely a conversation worth having, isn't it?
And we heard from the Premier League Chief Executive, Richard Masters, who was on stage at the Leaders' Conference. He's chair of the World Leagues organisation, and he used that talk to talk about criticism of FIFA, really, the struggle with FIFA over the calendar.
Yeah, what did he say?
There's no more space in the calendar, and talk about player welfare issues.
Yeah, I think that's the tension, and I think that will continue.
But I'm sure that's not unanimous, though. Chelsea delighted to have won the Club World Cup.
Yes, indeed.
And only 2 English teams this time, but it could well be 3 next time with no caps on the numbers from each country.
Certainly will. I think it'll be bigger as well. Bigger, no caps. Basically, the teams that didn't go there saw, I guess, the dollar signs and the money handed out to the others, and they want a piece of that now. It's inevitable. The Club World Cup is going to be bigger, and those country caps will be gone to, sorry, Red Bull Salzburg. That might be you, one and done.
No, I think that's right. I mean, I'm not convinced it's going to go up to 48 for the next edition, but probably the one after that.
Mm.
The FIFA Council meeting didn't really debate the issue of the Israel suspension. I mean, that's been a UEFA thing, but Gianni Infantino did sort of issue a call for football to play its part in securing peace. Just to say, anyone who was listening to last week's pod where we discussed this issue in depth, that basically UEFA have paused any vote on suspension because they want to see what's going to happen with these peace plan proposals. So I think it's not over, but it's one to keep an eye on.
At the start of the week, the peace plan announced, and various Mideast nations, including Qatar and Saudi Arabia, saying they welcomed it, but at the time of recording, no actual agreement all round.
No, and also it's interesting, the council meeting took place this week, where in Morocco, host of the 2030 World Cup with Portugal and Spain, there's been huge street protests. It's called like the Gen Z protest, youth-led protests, leaderless protests, biggest in the North African nation, they say, since 2011, with young people criticizing, among other things, a lack of investment in education and healthcare, while the country is spending huge amounts of money on new infrastructure for the World Cup, shiny new stadiums. In fact, Gianni Infantino was there recently in Tangier, about a month ago, maybe, inaugurating a new stadium with Fawzi Lecture, the very powerful Moroccan FA president. And
they've got the under-17s Women's World Cup.
And the AFCON, so African Cup of Nations as well in Morocco. But while Gianni Infantino was there at this, looked like a lovely stadium, one of these modern stadiums, the criticism was there online as well about the spending. And it just reminded me of what was happening in Brazil in 2013 and into 2014. The year into the World Cup, street protests across Brazil, in Rio, Sao Paulo, Brasilia, everywhere, which took aim at the spending on the World Cup and not on healthcare and education. Same language. And there was that chant, "There won't be a World Cup. No vai ter Copa." I remember that slogan being said throughout the build-up. It's eerily similar.
And there seemed little indication it would suddenly erupt as well. It was a year before the World Cup, the Confederations Cup in 2013. I just got there for that tournament. They put some bus prices up, and that sparked the initial wave of protests. And before long, we were in the midst of running battles in streets. I remember in Belo Horizonte, all the shops were boarded up. There was lines of riot police. You know, I was getting caught in tear gas while reporting on this in both Rio and Belo Horizonte. It was a real wave of the regular people rising up against the costs and spending around this World Cup. And you actually felt some of the tear gas in some of the stadiums because it was blowing in. It then didn't affect the World Cup itself a year later.
No, it didn't. I mean, I think it's. I think if Morocco cracks down very harshly on these protests, and if they continue, then that could be quite challenging for FIFA. But I suppose there's a slight difference with Brazil. It's 5 years away instead of just around the corner. So there's plenty of time for things to change.
And it brings it full circle to where we started about Saudi Arabia, how they're maybe investing in businesses and entities that appeal to the youth of the country, so it doesn't just look like they're spending a load of money on stadiums. In this case, it's esports and trying to bring them on board that way. Whereas maybe in Morocco, they're just saying, here's a lot of money being spent on grand stadiums for a football tournament or two.
Yeah, but there's also the kind of economic difference between these places as well, where, you know, you have poverty and the lack of jobs and schooling. And these are like the basic fundamentals for any state to have. And if these basic provisions aren't there, meanwhile gleaming arenas are next to a crumbling hospital, that's just going to bring people out in the street anyway. You know, it's the whole bread and circus. It's not going to work, is it? Morocco is very ambitious around this World Cup. It's been trying to host the World Cup since we've been covering this, Martyn. Probably since you've been covering this as well.
How long ago is that?
About 40 years.
The
full cycle of multiple World Cup bids for Morocco.
Yeah. Just a final word on Saudi Arabia. So this week, Roger Goodall, the NFL commissioner, has been talking both at the leaders' conference in London, but also previously about that, because they play a lot of matches in different countries, and Brazil, Germany, UK. But he said that the next target is going to be the Middle East. And so they've already scouted locations in Abu Dhabi. They're looking at Saudi Arabia. So this is a massive thing, isn't it? The NFL going there. Obviously, football still reluctant to play matches outside their countries.
And Goodell ruling out, though, the Super Bowl being played beyond America. The NFL does have rules preventing state ownership, doesn't it?
It does. It does. But the NFL had rules preventing private equity ownership as well. They changed those recently. The issue is these teams are so expensive that they have to keep expanding the pool of people who can buy them, because you're running out of these very rich individuals to buy these. So now you've got the private equity. The NBA had this as well. But with the Middle East, especially if Saudi Arabia, the US has a very different relationship with Saudi Arabia, I think, than elsewhere. Because whenever these talks come up, remember with Live Golf, 9/11 always comes up. And the NFL is America's sport. It is the sport of America. The idea, I think, look, he might have said this today, but if we do see Saudi Arabia getting involved more and more in the NFL, I think it won't be as seamless, at least from an institutional point of view, as it has been, say, in the Premier League and elsewhere, with things being waved through. The only thing that stopped or delayed the Newcastle takeover was an issue between Qatar and Saudi Arabia. It was nothing to do with the UK. I don't know. I think with the US, it might be different. But this week, you've got all those comedians who've gone to, the US comedians have gone to Riyadh for this comedy festival. Those ones, many of those who bemoaned a lack of free speech in America, somehow have decided it was okay for them to go to Saudi Arabia, of all places, a free speech bastion. And one of the comedians who turned this down, she published the contract. And I dare say footballers who've gone there for big money have signed things like this as well, where they said, "Hi, comedians, we know you like to, joke, my language here, but please don't joke about our royal family, our country, our people, anything to do with us. Just don't joke about it." And these comedians all happily signed up to this, who, when they're at home, complain about not being able to say what they want.
Were they allowed to joke about Cristiano Ronaldo?
He is now a public figure in Saudi Arabia. That's a very good question.
No mocking of Cristiano Ronaldo. Well, as we come up to the end of the pod, final pot on cricket.
Yes. It was the Asia Cup of cricket being played out there in the Middle East. The two biggest teams got to the final. This was India and Pakistan playing in Dubai, the great rivals. India defended the cup by beating Pakistan, but they refused to take part in the trophy celebration because the Asian Cricket Council chief is a guy called Mohsin Naqvi. He also heads the PCB, the Pakistan Cricket Board, and I think he's also the Interior Minister. So the Indian players celebrated by mimicking a trophy and didn't take part. This is the second time this has happened in recent days where India beat Pakistan and there was no handshakes, there was nothing. And we talked about this in football with all the various conflicts going on. The world of sport seems to be at a point now where this stuff is flaring up at such regularity. We're gonna see this ugly behaviour, aren't we?
We are. Interestingly, Mike Atherton, the former England captain, is now the Times cricket correspondent. He said that basically this shows that it's now the ICC basically contrives for India and Pakistan to meet in various cricket competitions and to put them in the same group, make sure they play each other. And he thinks, but actually, what happened in the Asia Cup probably shows it's probably time they stop doing that, at least for the time being.
Yeah, maybe as quoting Gianni Infantino today at the council meeting, FIFA cannot solve geopolitical problems. Can cricket solve geopolitical problems?
Yeah.
Clearly not.
No. In India, Pakistan had that little mini conflict as well a few months ago.
Ended by Donald Trump, he said.
represented by Donald Trump. So all roads lead to Yorkshire and the White House.
Well, as ever, always grateful for your feedback and for listening. And if you hit subscribe, we land in your feeds automatically.
Great stuff, guys.
Goodbye for now.